Hey guys, welcome back to another quick impressions video on the beta for Star Wars Battlefront, a game that is much anticipated by a lot of people, of course coming out later next month I believe. So it's a little bit odd to have a beta released this close to release. In my opinion, this is not really a beta because the game should go into production pretty soon and be, it'll be ready for distribution to retailers. So I guess this beta, for the most part, just tested the server loads and the server volume and all that. But as far as actual glitches, I don't think they're gonna have any time to resolve those, unfortunately. But the good news is that the game is, at least when I played, it was not glitchy. There are no noticeable bugs or anything like that. But it does need some tweakment as far as the some game modes like Walker Assault, which I will get a little bit into detail as we go farther into this video. But as some of you guys may know, I'm a huge Battlefield fan. In my opinion, the Battlefield games are the ultimate online first-person shooting experience, and so I was excited when this game got announced, and when I knew that DICE, which is the developer for the Battlefield games, they were involved, and they will make use of their Frostbite engine, which is the physics engine that powers the Battlefield games, which in my opinion is one of the best in the industry as far as physics and destruction and demolition and all that, lighting effects and so forth. I think it's one of the best, if not the best, engine out there. And so I was excited in that regard because I'm a huge Battlefield person, but at the same time I was excited because I like the Star Wars films. I'm a pretty big fan of all the movies released so far. I've watched them several times. Perhaps I'm not the biggest Star Wars fan out there, but nevertheless I'm a fan of the movies. So I'm very much looking forward not only to this game but to the movie that's coming out later this year as well. And granted, I do have to say that I used this beta as a parameter to decide whether or not I was gonna buy the game. And overall, in a short summary, I think yes, the beta was good enough for me to skew me into pre-ordering the game and getting it on day one. But there are some things that they have to fix, but for the most part it's really fun, and I can see the final product being obviously better and bigger and a lot of fun. Basically, the beta has 3 game modes: Drop Zone, Walker Assault, and I believe the last one is called Survival, maybe, which is essentially like a solo type of gameplay mode where you have to survive waves of enemies. I didn't really delve too much into that game mode because I was interested in the online modes that this beta offered. And so out of the 2 online modes, between Drop Zone and Walker Assault, the obvious choice and the game mode that I've been playing the most in the beta is Drop Zone, which is kind of like a King of the Hill, or if you're familiar with the Battlefield games, it's mostly like a mixture of rush and conquest, in the sense that you have to there are pods that drop in the map. Your team has to go and activate them, and whatever team activates the pod, they have to defend it. So it's kind of like Rush in the sense that you have to attack and defend, but it happens at the same time, basically. So if the opposition activates the pod, you do have the chance to go and deactivate it and reactivate it as part of your team to score points. So it's a very dynamic, very well done game mode. That it's like the most pure online experience out of this beta, but at the same time is the less impressive one in terms of a Star Wars vibe, because you don't get to fly the X-wing, you don't get to drive the AT-ATs and things like that. So as far as a pure Star Wars experience, this is like the least game mode you'll want to play. But at the same time, if you want the most fun out of this beta, that's the game mode to go with. And I'm saying this because Walker Assault, which is the true quote-unquote Star Wars experience, it's very unbalanced. In this game mode, it's basically 20 players versus 20 players. on each side, and it's basically the Battle of Hoth, where the Empire is trying to overrun the rebel base with the AT-ATs. So if you're playing on the rebel side, you have to attempt to stop the Empire assault with coordinated airstrikes. But the game type is very skewed in favor of the Empire. It's just really easy to plow through the rebels, and out of all the times that I played, I only won as the rebel one time, and it was because the other team they were pretty bad. But this is so far, if you're a fan of the Star Wars movies and you want that vibe, this is the gameplay, the game mode to play, to experience. You can become Darth Vader if you're part of the Empire. If you're playing for the Rebels, there is a power up to become Luke Skywalker, and you can get to fly the X-wings. You can get to drive the AT-ATs. So it's a very it's fan service at its best. But again, unfortunately it's so unbalanced that I only played a few rounds, and then after that I gave up and went back to Drop Zone, which is the pure online experience, and in my opinion so far, as far as this game. The graphics are amazing. No surprises here. If you have played Battlefield games before, things will look similar because of the Frostbite engine, but this particular beta or game has a level of polish above of that found in Battlefield 4 and Battlefield Hardline. So that's really good news. I was somewhat scared that perhaps EA and DICE were gonna, since they already have the license, that we're gonna be lazy and because they know they're gonna sell a lot no matter what, if the graphics are good or not. So I was a little bit skeptical, but thankfully they went the extra mile, and the textures in this game look fantastic. The lighting effects, the character models, and everything in this game are just fantastic looking, and it makes you feel like you're actually inside a Star Wars movie or a Star Wars battle. So graphics are perhaps, in my opinion, the most positive thing out of the beta, along with the sound effects. You're gonna hear the lasers, the sound of the AT-ATs, the X-wings. If you're a Star Wars fan, you'll be in heaven if you have a good headset or a pair of headphones. You're gonna be in heaven basically, because the sound effects in this game are amazing, and I'm not surprised because DICE, they've been doing a fantastic job as far as the sound effects on the Battlefield games. If you put a headset on, it's the level of detail of the sound of the guns and explosions and everything is just fantastic. So not surprised at all that the soundtrack and the sound effects are amazing in this game. Now the gameplay, it's a little bit, it's kind of like Battlefield, but not at the same time. There are no iron sights. You can have a scope view, but no iron sights, which is kind of worrying on my behalf, because I'm so used to the gunplay in Battlefield. But nevertheless, the gunplay is very intuitive, and I think geared towards a more pick up and play type of gameplay, which is good, because I think a lot of people that have tried to get into the Battlefield games and they can't get into the Battlefield games, it's because of the quote-unquote simulation type of gameplay that those games have. It's a little bit more hard to master, and it's a steep learning curve when compared to games like Call of Duty. So they did some things to simplify the gameplay, which is in my opinion good, because it will allow people to to be happier when they pick this game up. You can only rank up to level 5, and of course, like any other online competitive game, there are unlockable weapons and gadgets. I'm not really familiar yet with the card system, but basically you can purchase cards with the points that you get after each mission, and you can buy gadgets such as grenades, jetpacks, shields, and whatnot that can greatly help you during battle. I was obviously a little bit not confused, but missing the lack of squads, which is a a staple of the Battlefield series. The lack of spotting. I was pushing R1 all the time to try and spot enemies, and of course the lack of classes, which I don't believe the final version of this game will have. You know how in Battlefield you can have medics. You have support classes, recon, and all that. So the gameplay overall takes a step back in terms of strategy. So in that regard, it'll be easier to just jump into the games. It won't be as complicated as the Battlefield games, but obviously for me that's a little bit of a negative. But at the same time, I can understand why they went that route. So overall, I'm pretty impressed, pretty pleased with the beta, and I think I will make a pre-order of the game. Hopefully the game receives good support, and hopefully the game doesn't have any weird issues like Battlefield 4 has. The beta is working fine as far as lag, and the overall netcode seems to be working pretty well. So I think both EA and DICE have learned their lesson not to rush any games, and to keep working and polish the product to have a good release. So and Battlefield Hardline, it worked right on launch as well. So I think they've learned their lesson after the Battlefield 4 debacle, which that game was rushed to the market, and it was mostly EA's fault, not really DICE's fault, because they were forced to release the game pretty soon. So yeah, Battlefront, I'm pretty excited. I think I will put a pre-order. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you all later.